I started my journey in looking to find answers and did my best to combine both the spiritual understanding of what happened to me with the science. And so after a period of time, I started studying spontaneous remissions. I wanted to understand if there were other people that had same or similar conditions that were treating conventionally or unconventionally, and they were staying the same or getting worse, and all of a sudden they got better. And I wanted to know if there was a cause that somehow produced the effect. And so I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people that had some type of spontaneous remission. And over time, I began to realize that those changes weren't so spontaneous after all, that there was some effect. And after interviewing many people, I found that there were 4 common things that I just want to briefly talk to you about, that they all had in common that had some effect on their physical body. Number 1, they all believed that there was an intelligence within them that was giving them life. That was that same intelligence that I just talked about. And its function is for balance, restoration, repair, and regeneration. It is to maintain the body in its balance. And all of those biological functions that you and I take for granted are under the control of the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the automatic nervous system. And so they all believed that there was some intelligence that was giving them life, and they all believed that somehow, whatever you want to call that, intelligence, they had to take time to begin to make contact with it and to begin to give it a specific design, just like I did. And again, once again, surrender their creation to this automatic mind that does the healing for us. The second thing they had in common is on some level, they began to take responsibility for their own health. They started to say, what was my state of mind and body that may have contributed to this disease, whether it was cancer, MS, thyroid condition. What was it that I had been doing for the last 10 years or last 20 years that could have had an effect on it? What were the thoughts that I was thinking? What were the actions or habits that I went unconscious to? How did I speak? And they looked at certain emotions that they lived by that they may have mismanaged, and they started to become conscious of those unconscious states of mind and body. And this was an important element because this was the process of breaking the habit of being themselves. In other words, they started realizing that it was their unconscious thoughts and feelings and behaviors that had some effect on their body. And if they thought, well, if I was thinking, acting, and feeling this way, if I start to change my thoughts, if I start to change how I speak, how I act, if I could begin to give up certain emotions that keep me connected to the past and start feeling differently, would it begin to produce an effect in my body? And they began their own personal journey of changing from one state into another. I thought that was really important because when I started studying this, I realized that mind had the most dramatic effect on the body. And I went back to school and started studying neuroscience in more detail. And I started to discover that there is a very strong correlation between how we think, because every thought we think produces a chemical. That chemical signals our body to feel certain ways. When we have an unhappy thought, we feel unhappy. The moment we feel unhappy, the brain is always monitoring what the body's doing, and we begin to think more unhappy thoughts equal to the way we're feeling. And people get caught in these loops of thinking and feeling, and it's the redundancy of that cycle over time that creates the person's state of being.